Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see so many attendees. My name's Emma Brooksbank. I'm head of our immigration department at Freets. I'll be running the session today to talk you through the recent immigration rule change announcement. After the session, we will be sending the slides and the recording out to all registered attendees. We've also put together some useful resources, which I'll refer to during the session, which we will send out. And additionally, I anticipate that there will be lots of questions around the changes. What do they mean for you and your business? What do they mean for your sponsored workers? What does that mean for existing sponsored workers, and how's the future looking? If those questions arise now and during the session, please pop them straight into the Q&A. We'll be picking up all of those questions directly after the session. So me and my team will work through those and we'll come back to you directly so that we can really tailor those responses to your requirements and to your sector. If in the coming days or weeks, you or a colleague or a client or a friend thinks, I think I knew this, but I'm not quite sure, I just want another point of clarification, then any further questions can be directed straight to my immigration team. My colleague Ashley's on the call today, and she'll be putting our email address into the Q&A for your reference. If you need to make a note of it, it's fairly easy, immigration@freets.co.uk. We're very, very happy to answer all of those ongoing questions and queries that you might have, obviously on a no obligation basis. Right, so we'll make a start. So these are changes which were first announced in the white paper that came in on the 12th of May. So we did know they were coming, but we didn't have the detail. And what we have now is a statement of changes that sets out the actual legislation. So that's the actual wording of the new immigration rules, and provides us with an explanatory memorandum to give us some more detail or some explanation of what's changing and why it's changing. So that statement of changes was published on the 1st of July for changes which will be implemented on the 22nd of July. Next slide, please, Tom. So that implementation date is important. So 22nd of July, less than a couple of weeks, 12 days time. Any certificates of sponsorship that are assigned up to and including the 21st of July will be then determined as at the rules in place today. So they'll be determined under what will become the old rules. Any certificates of sponsorship assigned on or after the 22nd of July will be determined under the new rules. So we have this short period of time now where, if possible, we might want to be looking at pushing our certificates through, making sure they're assigned. Once they're assigned, if that's before the deadline, before the 22nd, then we've got a little bit of breathing space to deal with any visa applications. So the first really important piece of information is to prepare for the implementation of these rule changes on the 22nd. Next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. Okay, so this is the biggie. This is the headline, that there is a change to the skill threshold for skilled worker visas. So currently, skilled worker visas can be used to sponsor people into occupations which are at or above A level on the RQF framework. The change will mean that only occupations at RQF 6 will be eligible for sponsorship, and that is graduate level occupations. Now, that means that roughly 180 occupations will fall below graduate level and will in principle not be eligible for sponsorship. However, there are certain circumstances where an occupation which is at RQF 3 to 5, and so below graduate level, can still be eligible. So the first of those circumstances is where a candidate is already in this route. So where they already have their skilled worker visa prior to the rule changes, so prior to the 22nd of July, they could continue to be sponsored in a role that is at RQF level 3 to 5. They would not have to be sponsored in a graduate role. It's important to remember that that applies to existing skilled workers within your workforce. So where a person's visa is due to expire after the rule changes and they're in a below graduate level occupation, they could extend and you could continue their sponsorship beyond their visa expiry date, and they could extend into a 3 to 5 RQF level occupation. Additionally, that also applies to change of employment applications. So where a person is not sponsored by you, they're sponsored by a different company, but you've recruited them, you'd like them to move to work for you under your sponsorship, and they already had their skilled worker visa in place and have held it at all times since prior to the rule changes, then that person could continue to be sponsored into an RQF 3 to 5 role. Additionally, this applies to supplementary work. So supplementary work is where a person is sponsored by a different employer and they're allowed to work for you for up to 20 hours a week. Again, the same principle applies. If they have an existing skilled worker visa, they can continue to do supplementary work in an occupation at that lower level. Now, importantly, additionally, we now will have a new temporary shortage list, and that will have about 52 occupations on it, and that's one of the resources that we will send out. We will send you the temporary shortage list so that you know what all of those occupations are. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go into a bit more detail about that list, but at the moment, I'll just tell you that all of the occupations on that list are eligible for sponsorship and are at level 3 to 5. Similarly, we have an immigration salary list, which will be expanded, and occupations on that list can be sponsored even if they're at level 3 to 5. They don't need to be graduate level occupations. So when you take into account the ongoing eligibility of roles on the temporary shortage list and the immigration salary list, that takes you to roughly 100 occupations, which will be no longer eligible for sponsorship. We will send you that list of non-eligible occupations, and we'll send you the immigration salary list occupations as well. Next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. So there's also changes to salary threshold. Now, those of you who have been sponsors for a while will remember that in April 2024, there was really significant changes to the salary thresholds. They were increased by a large amount. These increases are not as significant, and the intention is for increases to be implemented on at least an annual basis from now on an ongoing basis. And those are intended to keep visa requirements in line with ASHE data, so in line with salary thresholds for the general population. So we'll see an increase to the general threshold. Remember, that's what we used to call baseline. and to the going rates, and the going rates apply to each occupation code. So for the general threshold, that will increase as of the 22nd of July to 41,700 gross per annum. There are still discounted rates available for PhD holders, PhD in STEM holders, roles on the immigration salary list that we've just mentioned, and for new entrants, so people coming into the role from a student or graduate visa for the first time. And you can see those rates set out there, but then importantly, you need to remember that the April 2024 changes imposed such a high increase to salary that there was a concession put in place at that time. And that concession said that people sponsored prior to April 2024 would benefit from a slightly lower increase. Still an increase, but it was a lower increase. And that is being carried through into these rule changes. So you'll see there's quite a lot to remember, and as sponsors there's quite a lot to monitor and check in terms of when did a person first secure their skilled worker visa? Was it before a crucial April 24 date? Was it before a crucial July 25 dates? There's quite a bit to wrap your head around, but the rates for people who were already in the route prior to April 2024 and for roles which are health and care, ASHA salary roles are set out there on the slide. So you'll see that there's an increase in the general threshold to 31,300, PhD holders to 28,200, and then for STEM, immigration salary list, and new entrants, there's actually no increase, that stays at 25,000. And importantly, you must remember that you don't now need to rush back and tell payroll to immediately increase salary rates. The new rates apply at the point at which you assign a new cause to a sponsored worker. Next slide, please. Right, we'll get into the detail of the temporary shortage list. So, brand new list, level 3 to 5, and these are only sectors identified in the industrial strategy as being important for the growth of the UK economy. So that's why you will see roles on there that relate to business professionals, creative sector, advanced manufacturing, clean energy, and various others to bring you up to 8 sectors. You won't, even though they are in shortage, see roles relating to the medical profession, for example, the dental profession, for example, because these roles are only ones that align directly with the industrial strategy. Now, importantly, this is intended to be time limited. So you'll see that there is an expiry date by which these roles are intended to come off the shortage list, and that expiry date is currently 31st December 2026, but that will be kept under review. It could be brought forward, but equally it could be pushed back. And the Migration Advisory Committee, MAC, has been commissioned to keep those occupations under review and also to keep salary rates under review. Now, very significantly, people moving into a sponsored role on the temporary shortage list will not be permitted to bring their dependents or to be accompanied by their dependents to the UK. But that change does not apply to sponsored workers who are already in the UK, currently pre-rule change, working in an RQF 3 to 5 role. If they were permitted to bring dependents at the time they joined the route, then they will continue to be accompanied and be permitted to be accompanied by their dependents. Next slide, please. Thank you. So slightly confusingly, there will be a period of time during which we have both of these lists running. So we'll have the new temporary shortage list, and we will still have the immigration salary list. So this is the immigration salary list that we're already familiar with. It replaced the shortage occupation list. It will be expanded slightly, expanded up to 25 occupations to bring in all of the occupations that were recommended by MAC in their 2023 and their 2024 reviews. As with the temporary shortage list, the immigration salary list is intended to be short-lived. So when you see the list, you will see that all the roles have an expiry date. For most, that's the 31st of December 2026, but there are separate provisions for care roles, so care workers and senior care workers, and those roles have an expiry date of the 22nd of July 2028. And just on care, we're running a separate webinar tomorrow. So if you're operating in the care sector, there are some quite significant changes that are specific to your sector, and I'll be talking you through those in, again, a 30-minute webinar, same time, 10 o'clock tomorrow. So do feel free to register for that if you're interested in exactly what's happening in the care sector. There might be a little bit of crossover with this one, but that's the session that will really go into the detail in terms of the care sector specific changes. So you'll see that the salary rates for immigration salary list occupations are set out there on the slide. So the full fat salary rate, as it were, is 33,400, and then there's that lower salary rate for pre-April skilled worker visa holders and for health and care roles, which is set at 25,000. Next slide, please. Thanks, Tom. So I thought it'd be helpful just to set out some recommendations or just practical tips. What when you finish with this webinar, what kind of things might you be taking back with you? What conversations might you want to be having with your wider HR team, payroll, recruiters, MD, whoever you might need to talk to? So given that we've got this very short window before the rule changes are implemented, you may want to review your current workforce, and you might want to be asking yourself, right, do we have any imminent visa renewals? If they're anticipated in September, do we actually want to do them now under the rules in place today? Do we have any recruitment plans or candidates? Are they possibly in an occupation code which will no longer be eligible for sponsorship after the 22nd of July? If so, is it possible to progress those now to push them through before the rule changes? And also, you might want to look at your current workforce. Do you have any other people within your workforce with time-limited visas, graduate visa holders, for example, or dependent visa holders? Are they going to be coming to you in 3 months' time saying, could you support me with sponsorship onto the skilled worker? At that point, you might think, I wish we'd known about that 3 months ago. And it may be that you can sponsor them at the time, but the salary rates might be higher and that might be less comfortable. So it would be worth just having a review and possibly having a conversation with people in that situation about their plans and about whether there is an argument for sponsoring now rather than in 12 days' time. Additionally, you'll receive the TSL and the ISL, the temporary shortage list and the immigration salary list from us. Have a look at those roles, have a think about whether you are planning to recruit into those roles. And if you are, just bear in mind that the current deadline is December 2026, which will be here before we know it, and that deadline can be brought forwards. I suspect it may be pushed back because I suspect that we may not have resolved our domestic workforce issues in the coming 18 months, but we'll have to see. But you do just need to bear in mind that will be subject to change, and the government's reserved the right to change that at any time. So it'd be worth having a look, thinking about your recruitment plans, thinking, do we need to benefit from the temporary shortage list? Maybe we want to do that sooner rather than later. Similarly, have a look at the general threshold, salary threshold changes that we've set out in the slides, and then you'll need to go into the statement of changes. And if you need a link for that, just ask us on our email address and we'll send it to you, to look at the going rates for any actual occupations that you are either currently sponsoring or proposing to sponsor. And that will then enable you to plan in those increases in salary, because you can see exactly where you will need to be. You'll know when your extensions are due, or you'll know when you anticipate recruitment plans coming down the pipeline. And so then you can forward plan for those increases in salary. Have a think about whether you've got any ads that actually confirm salary. They may not, but if they give an annual salary or an hourly rate, just double check that is aligned, and if any changes are needed from 22nd of July, make sure that those changes are made. And just have a think about whether your HR teams, payroll, recruiters might benefit even just from receiving this recording, or from some refresher top-up training. Do bear in mind on the first point that if you're thinking about assigning COSs, there is a reasonable chance that the sponsor management system will close a couple of days, 48 hours possibly. And I don't have that on any authority except for past experience. It could well shut down 48, 24 hours before the rule changes to enable processes to be implemented in the background. So, our recommendation is do things as soon as you can. Don't leave anything to the last minute. Next slide, please. Thanks, Tom. So the white paper did have other proposed developments within it, which haven't yet been included within a statement of changes. So the things we've talked about today are everything in relation to skilled worker visas, which have been announced in the statement of changes. But as they announced the statement of changes, they confirmed the information given on the slide there, which explains that by the end of the year, there will be that increase to the immigration skills charge, which we know about. We know that it's going to be a 32% increase. That's another reason to do things earlier rather than later. You'd be better paying today's rates on the immigration skills charge rather than tomorrow's rates. Well, not literally tomorrow, by the end of the year when it's implemented. There will also be the uplift in the language requirement, which has also been flagged within the white paper. And then mysteriously, there'll be an unveiling of a new family policy framework to Parliament. Mentioned in the announcement, don't have any further detail yet. We will have max review of the temporary shortage list and ongoing review of salary rates. And then the other important dates for your diaries are the current proposed end date of those two lists. So end of December 2026, July 28 for care roles. And then interestingly, at the moment, there's been no further mention, so certainly within the 1st of July announcement, of the proposal to increase the qualifying period for settlement from 5 years up to 10 years. Now, that might be because it's not going to be dealt with in the immigration rules. It might be because it will be dealt with in primary legislation. It may be because they haven't yet completely formulated those plans. Optimistically, it might be because they're rowing back on those plans, but I think in these circumstances we probably need to take a slightly more pessimistic view and need to anticipate that those changes probably will come in, but maybe not immediately because they haven't been flagged up in that announcement that was made at the beginning of the month. So all that's left, I think, if we go on to the next slide, Tom, is for me to say thank you for attending. I can see there's lots of questions in the Q&A. As I've said, my team and I will be picking all of those up, and as long as you're not in there anonymously, we'll be coming back to you directly so that we can make sure that we've fully answered your question. We can tailor it to your industry sector, and if you need any further points of clarification, you then have that communication directly with us. If you think of something that you wish you asked and you didn't, then send an email over to us. Email address is there, but just as a reminder, it's immigration@freest.co.uk. So yes, it's been a pleasure presenting to you this morning, and I wish you all the best for the rest of your day. Thank you.